What if I told you the rise and fall of empires, global trade, and even the food on your plate can all be traced back to one unassuming white crystal? For thousands of years, this seemingly simple substance has shaped human history, driving wars, creating wealth, and dictating power dynamics across continents. Get ready to discover the shocking truth behind the world's most overlooked, yet most powerful, commodity. The journey of human civilization is inseparable from the history of salt. For the earliest people, salt was not a seasoning, it was a matter of survival. The universal human need for sodium, essential for nerve and muscle function, meant that inland tribes far from the ocean or salt springs faced a constant, desperate scarcity. This initial scarcity is the root of salt's immense power. Before refrigeration, salt's ability to draw out moisture and preserve food was revolutionary. It meant that a society was no longer dependent on the seasonal availability of meat or fish. It allowed armies to march for months without starving, sailors to cross oceans, and populations to survive harsh winters. Salt literally enabled the storage of food in times of plenty, which created the first stable, non-nomadic civilizations. Early civilizations quickly became defined by their control over salt. In the Roman Republic, the need to transport salt from the coast to the capital led to the construction of specialized trade routes, the most famous of which was the Via Salaria, or the Salt Road. Rome itself was, in part, built on salt. This association led to one of history's most famous linguistic facts. The English word, salary, comes from the Latin word salarium, which was a stipend, or money allowance, given to Roman soldiers, often to buy salt. The expression, worth your salt, is a direct reference to this ancient military allowance. If a soldier wasn't performing well, he was considered not worth his salt. As trade expanded, salt became, in many parts of the world, a form of currency, a commodity so stable and universally desired that it was nicknamed white gold. Nowhere was this more dramatic than in West Africa. In the vast trans-Saharan trade, salt was transported by enormous camel caravans across the desert from mines like Tagaza, where it was so plentiful that houses were built from massive blocks of rock salt. When these blocks reached the gold-rich kingdoms of Ghana and Mali, they were exchanged for their weight in gold dust. These empires, including the realm of the legendary Mansa Musa, became unimaginably wealthy not just from mining gold, but from their strategic control and taxation of the salt routes. The very existence and prosperity of Timbuktu, a center of wealth and learning, was contingent on this vital exchange. The moment salt transitioned from a commodity to a tool of state power was when governments realized its potential for taxation. The Chinese Empire was arguably the first to institutionalize this, establishing a state monopoly on salt as early as 119 BCE. This monopoly lasted for over 2,000 years, funding everything from wars to infrastructure, and sometimes providing over half of the imperial government's total revenue. But heavy salt taxes were universally detested and often became the flashpoint for rebellion. The most infamous example in Europe was the gabelle in France. Introduced in the 14th century, this salt tax was so unevenly applied across different regions that it forced citizens in high-tax areas, the Pays des Grandes Gabelles, to buy a fixed quota of salt annually at a vastly inflated price. The injustice of this tax, which targeted the poorest citizens who relied on salt for basic survival and preservation, was one of the major catalysts that fueled the French Revolution in 1789. Thousands of French citizens were imprisoned, executed, or sent to the galleys for the simple crime of salt smuggling. In the 20th century, salt once again became a potent political symbol during the fight for Indian independence. The British Raj enforced a strict salt monopoly, taxing the local production and sale of a necessity that cost next to nothing to produce from the sea. In 1930, Mahatma Gandhi consciously chose salt as the focus of a massive non-violent resistance campaign. His Salt March, a 240-mile trek to the sea with thousands of followers, was a symbolic act of civil disobedience, culminating in him picking up a few grains of salt, openly defying the oppressive British law. This single act transformed the independence movement into a mass struggle, demonstrating that salt was, as Gandhi said, next to air and water, perhaps the greatest necessity of life. Today, salt is cheap, abundant, and often ignored, thanks to the twin innovations of mass industrial production and, most significantly, refrigeration. The need to cure and salt vast quantities of food vanished almost overnight, stripping salt of its strategic value and shattering the monopolies that had governed it for millennia. But the history remains, etched into our language, buried beneath ancient trade routes, and recorded in the annals of revolution. That unassuming white crystal that sits on your kitchen counter has done more than flavor your meals. It has financed the world's first empires, built roads for Roman legions, determined the wealth of African kings, and sparked revolutions that toppled monarchies. It is, perhaps, the most powerful and least celebrated artifact of human history. Imagine a world in which the mere act of boiling a pot of water or sprinkling a dish with salt was laden with historical significance. This unassuming crystal once dictated the rise and fall of entire civilizations, weaving itself into the fabric of human existence. It empowered those who controlled it, bestowing wealth upon kings, as generations relied on its preservation of life and sustenance. In every grain, a testament to struggles fought and victories achieved is contained, revealing a journey of extraordinary influence, extending far beyond mere seasoning. As we delve deeper into salt's multifaceted role, it's crucial to highlight the ways it influenced human behavior and societal structures. People became acutely aware of salt's value, leading to both the glorification and vilification of those who controlled its distribution. In ancient trade hubs, a merchant's reputation hinged on their ability to secure high-quality salt, inevitably intertwining their fate with that of empires. Salt was, in essence, a gold standard, and its presence or absence could signal prosperity or peril for communities across the globe. Through its history, salt served as a linchpin during times of great upheaval and transformation. Governments would guard its sources fiercely, understanding that control often meant survival. Thus, salt not only seasoned food but also spiced up the power dynamics within and between nations. As we trace the stories of salt, we find echoes of human resilience and innovation, presenting us with tales of epic battles fought over salt-rich territories and the clever strategies devised to harness its economic potential. From the beloved salt roads of ancient Rome to the grand caravans traversing the scorched Sahara, we unearth an epic saga that intertwines commerce, culture, and conflict. From the very humblest origins, salt elevated ordinary lives into extraordinary narratives, encapsulating the spirit of humanity's quest for endurance and prosperity. As ancient civilizations grew, so too did the complexity of salt trade networks, which crossed deserts, mountains, and seas. Merchants navigated treacherous routes laden with salt, often risking life and wealth for the promise of profit. Salt caravans became symbols of ambition and enterprise, drawing ambitious traders who understood the stakes involved in securing this precious resource. In bustling markets, the shimmering white crystals became a medium for diverse cultures to exchange not only goods but stories, enriching communities with flavors and traditions from distant lands. As the intricate networks of salt commerce expanded, so did the ramifications of its control on local and global scales. In the heart of bustling markets, varied cultures converged, exchanging not just salt, but ideas, practices, and innovations. Each grain carried a history, a connectedness that ran deeper than mere trade. It was the very lifeblood of civilizations, intricately woven through the tapestry of human progress. The stakes were incredibly high, prompting conflicts that flared up dramatically over the access and distribution of salt. These clashes, fueled by greed and desperation, showcased humanity's relentless pursuit of stability and abundance amidst a constant struggle for survival. The legacy of salt continues to resonate, reminding us of our shared past and the forces that shape the world we inhabit today. As we journey through time, we find ourselves in ancient Rome, where the Via Salaria thrummed with the energy of commerce. Travelers, soldiers, and merchants traversed the salt road, laden with precious cargo, all in pursuit of this indispensable mineral. The salty breeze mingled with voices raised in negotiations, while the glint of coins exchanged for salt mirrored the wealth that flowed into the city's coffers. The roads became arteries of power, reinforcing Rome's dominance and showcasing salt's unparalleled role in shaping not only economies but entire civilizations. Each step along this trail tells a story of ambition, survival, and innovation, laying the groundwork for the interplay that would define global trade for centuries to come. The power of salt did not remain confined to the ancient world. It surged into modern economies, evolving into a staple of international trade. In every corner of the globe, nations harness salt for more than just culinary purposes, recognizing its potential to affect geopolitics and unite disparate regions. A stark reminder of its significance, wars continued to erupt over salt-rich territories, echoing the age-old battles of yesteryear. The salt trade facilitated the rise of powerful merchant empires that understood the nuances of supply and demand, each interaction carrying the weight of history and necessity, reflecting a fundamental truth. Where there is salt, there is life, growth, and often fierce competition. Amidst bustling trade routes, tensions grew as rival factions vied for control over coveted salt sources, igniting fierce confrontations that would shape borders and destinies. Salt, often overlooked in modern contexts, became a focal point of resistance, propelling communities to unite against oppressive regimes that restricted access to this vital resource. Moments of rebellion echoed throughout history, illustrating how even the simplest of substances could become symbols of resistance against tyranny. In West Africa, the salt-rich landscape gleamed under the scorching sun, where the rich earth yielded precious blocks of salt. Caravans, massive and resolute, set forth across the vast deserts, their paths etched into the minds of those who called these arid lands home. For merchants, this journey was not merely a job, it was infused with hope for prosperity, as each block carried with it stories of both wealth and survival. As they trudged through the Sahara, the promise of gold dust and the allure of powerful kingdoms lay ahead, suggesting that the stakes were high, and failure could mean devastation. As these caravans traveled tirelessly through pounds of shifting sand, the allure of gold awaited them, promising prosperity beyond their wildest dreams. Each grain of salt was not merely a commodity but a bridge connecting cultures, a source of vitality that reflected the intricate tapestry of life. In this sprawling desert, whispered tales of wealth and power fueled ambitions, ensuring that every block carried the weight of dreams across the barren landscape. Just as salt transformed the economy of kingdoms, it would also intertwine with local lore, becoming a vital part of community identity and resilience. Thus, the journey continued, with merchants forging paths into the unknown, forever altering the course of history as they navigated the complex interplay of trade, fortune, and fate. In ancient China, the significance of salt was monumental, not merely regarded as a seasoning but rather viewed through the lens of governance and control. As the central authority sought to consolidate its power, the standardization of salt as a state-controlled commodity guaranteed both revenue and stability. This monopoly had far-reaching implications. It not only fortified the treasury but also fostered resentment among the populace, who resented being dependent on government-sanctioned sources for such a fundamental necessity. Thus, the struggle over salt represented a microcosm of broader social tensions, where survival clashed with the ambitions of authority, painting a portrait of civilization marked by complexity and contention. In the shadows of this interplay, salt's influence also incited fierce rebellions. Salt's profound impact reverberated through time and culture, shaping not only economies but also identities. The legacy of salt, from its sacred place in ancient rituals to its role in daily life, remains a powerful symbol of humanity's enduring relationship with the earth. Understanding salt's history invites reflection on the resources we take for granted today and their capacity to influence our collective narrative. Ultimately, the story of salt is a testament to our complex quest for survival and meaning throughout history. In its quiet presence lies the reminder that every grain of salt carries within it an epic saga of humanity's struggle for prosperity, survival, and the relentless quest for control. This ordinary yet extraordinary substance remains a silent witness to the forces that shaped our world, urging us to remember and honor its legacy.